What is depression? It's a question that a lot of us think about. All of us will experience moments of depression in our day-to-day life. Depression is a thing that we've created that's a collection of symptoms, and we look at that collection of symptoms through the disease model of medicine, which doesn't help us very much. Basically, it says if you have these symptoms, you have depression, and oh crap, now you have a thing, and we need to make that thing go away. So what do we do in our culture? We give you a handful of pills, we tell you that you're sick, and we tell you that this thing needs to disappear. So we actually create an idea in your mind that you have something wrong with you that is actually a naturally occurring phenomenon that you are meant to experience in the context of a potentially hostile and threatening environment. So let's kind of go back in time. Let's imagine that we are cavemen, or cave women, if you will, and every time we leave the cave, something's trying to kill us. Something's trying to eat us. Something's trying to make us sick. There's lions and tigers and bears behind every tree. And you might die of the common cold. You might eat a poison berry, whatever. The point is, every time you leave the cave, something's trying to get you. So what do? You start to think about what's out there. You start to think, I wonder what pathway I can take that's the safest. I wonder if I can remember my perception of the woods so I can navigate the woods in the safest way possible. I wonder if I sharpen a stick, if I can keep myself safe. I wonder if I wear a talisman, if that would keep me safe. I wonder if I do a certain chant or say a certain prayer, if that will keep me safe. That's what we call anxiety. Anxiety is the perception or the attempt to try to control something that we perceive as threatening, whether it's actually threatening or not. Perception is key in that case. Now, what happens if every time you leave the cave, something is trying to get you? You just get tired of that. You get tired of constantly perceiving that something is trying to harm you. So what do? You feel tired. You feel lethargic. You get irritated. You come up with a reason why you don't want to leave the cave anymore. Maybe you feel a little sick to your stomach. Maybe your head hurts. Whatever it is, you just feel like you want to curl up in a ball and you want to stay in the corner and you'd rather not leave the cave. This is what we call depression. Depression is a natural defense mechanism to perceived threat. I would take it a little further and say, do you notice that you tend to not really feel depressed unless you feel powerless? When we feel like we have some sort of power over that which is threatening to us, we tend to not get depressed. We tend to feel like we have a voice. You can trace it a long way back, but a good example is to think about Nietzsche. Nietzsche's whole deal was the will to power. I interpret that as we all want to have a voice. We all want to believe our voice matters. We all want to believe that we have the ability to command some sort of control over ourselves and over our environment. When we perceive our voice is limited, or we perceive our voice doesn't matter, we tend to feel powerless. When we feel powerless, we tend to want to curl up in a ball and stay in the cave. Because who wants to walk around in a world that you feel powerless in? Now we can go further. I probably won't go too far today, but this ties in with this idea of learned helplessness. If the world has taught you that you have no escape, that you have no voice, that your voice doesn't matter, that no matter how hard you try, you can never get ahead. This happens a lot to people who are subjugated in society, people who are oppressed. And there are people who are oppressed in society, whether you like it or not, or whether you want to agree with it or not. This tends to make people feel powerless. When people feel powerless, they tend to give up. They tend to hide. They tend to try to escape. This is what we call depression. How do you overcome that? You wiggle and you fight and you stretch and you find every single way to find a pathway out of your powerlessness. Sometimes, and this has been my greatest spiritual lesson, sometimes that looks like surrender. Sometimes that looks like complete surrender and acceptance of that which we cannot control, so that we can have a complete focus on that which we can control. Sounds like the Serenity Prayer, doesn't it? It actually sounds more like the Stoic movement out of Greek mythology. I believe that's the best way to put it. Stoicism is basically, let's radically accept that which we cannot change, and let's not even waste our energy on it. And then let's put all of our attention and all of our energy into that which we can control. And then we can become badasses in managing and controlling the things in our life that we actually do have some efficacy over. And guess what? Depression tends to get minimized. It tends to be a less prominent thing in your life, and you tend to feel empowered. Suddenly you feel like you have a voice. That's the magic of acceptance. Take care, folks.